What's up, guys? Here we are, Monster Motivator TV number 26, and we are right in my own town, Fallbrook. Now, as you guys know, it's not my original town. I'm from New Jersey, and I'm excited about the episode today because there's going to be so many different dynamics in this episode. The things that Gary Sinclair has gone through over his years of being on this earth was going to make us all look like we're standing still. It just goes from one to the other to the other. But really, in a nutshell, I mean, the man went from a gold medal winner as an ice skater to a natural healing, beating multiple sclerosis, and just numerous other things. And he teaches this all over the world. He actually has courses that you can get certified in, and that's how I got connected with Gary, through a mutual friend, Carol Hodges, and she was on one of our episodes as well. So after about 15 minutes of Carol telling me about Gary and his life, I said, I got to meet this guy, and she said he has to come on your show. So I'm excited. It took us a while to get his schedule down, and he's a busy man. But that being said, let me let Gary introduce himself. And Gary, tell everyone, where you're from, where you're at now, and where you see yourself going, and then we'll dive right into the laundry list of things that I want to get out there.
Wow. Sure. Well, welcome. God bless you. I love you to life. Just know that. I have no problem in telling you that I am love living, because learning that love pulls whatever it touches towards its highest potential was one of the biggest things I needed to learn in my life in order to allow myself to heal. If you look at where my history came from, again, I was even born with two lungs that were only 50% there, so I'm sure Dave's going to ask more questions about all that. But where am I today? Well, if you look at the new medical field called epigenetics, that's the study of how thought in and of itself has the ability to redesign the DNA in the body, turn the switches on, turn the switches off. And at this point in time, there's no question. I am in the forefront and one of the leaders, without being one that's been basically out there. I've stayed behind the scenes while I'm getting a lot of stuff set and ready to go, so that internationally the work that I'm now doing can be taught to you and others. Imagine what it would be like if somebody said to you, think about your worst memory ever. Oh, you're PTSD. Okay, think about your worst memory ever at PTSD levels. And then they showed you a technique that would actually neutralize the negative emotions and feelings in that memory and do it in approximately 20 seconds. You'd like that, wouldn't you? That's just one of the things that I do with everything that I'm doing, and Dave knows that's why he really wants to begin to dig into it. So
yeah, let's jump in, but let's go back to the beginning. Where are you originally from?
Okay, I was originally born in Calais, Maine, so I'm a maniac.
Okay.
Born in Calais, raised in Caribou, so I went all the way through high school being there in northern Maine. At the time, as I said, I was born with two lungs. They were only 50% there. Mm-hmm. My parents literally took me home from the hospital and loved me to life. So in loving me to life, the key was they did exactly that. I survived. I became a severe asthmatic. I was born allergic to trees, grass, plants, flowers. What does it give you to eat? We will want to talk about what my diet is. Because still today I'm very protected of my diet in that I was born that way. And although there have been many changes, there are still things today that I'm very careful with about what I eat.
So with those struggles from day one,
right,
what are some of the things that you had to do, even as a young kid, in a mindset to be able to kind of, it almost sounds like you embraced it from the beginning. I mean, was it the help of your parents? Like, how did you actually do that? Because, kids that have issues, right? Yeah. And then create the human, the adult, right, and then those issues are just drug right along.
Oh, yeah.
So share some of that mindset with us.
Well, I was at a point where, in truth, in life, I had to be fully protected all the time. So I was never allowed to go anywhere alone.
The boy in the plastic bubble.
The boy in the plastic bubble. Well,
right?
In its own way, because I get bit by mosquitoes, I'd swell up, I get stung by a bee, I'm going to the hospital. I knew the days of the week by the shots that I took. I knew the hours of the day by literally the medications that I took on a regular basis.
As a young kid.
So as a young kid. So I grew up so fully protected that I didn't go anywhere alone. Somebody slept in the same room with me.
Wow.
There wasn't anything I did. When I went to school, I knew that I didn't leave the school until either I was picked up or someone was going with me to wherever I'd go, because I did. I walked a very fine line, only having the lung capacity that I had.
Wow.
And of course, being in northern Maine, that's a complete weather change state. So
Yeah.
you never know what the weather's going to do to you, too, because boy, that extreme cold sure affects your breathing.
Right? Some
Yeah.
long, long winters up there,
Right.
man. That's brutal.
Yeah. That was back in the years when you had to take PE. So I had a certificate from my doctor every year that said that Gary needed to be excused from PE. So I sat on the sidelines in every class. So here's all the classmates, the people that would be what would be my closest friends. You know, they all look at you and wonder what's wrong, but they realize if Gary got up and ran around the floor like they did, I would sound like a fire engine because it would be this wheezing sound that would come out of me really, really fast. But in my own mind's eye, it meant in some way I was a reject. So if there was something possible to do that would help me participate in anything that they were doing, I did it. You know, I did projector club. I did the key club. You name it. If it can be done and it wasn't a sports jock type deal, I definitely did it. I mean, running for class president, you know, vote with care, vote Sinclair. You know, I did whatever I could to try to make sure that, in a way, I was noticed and yet not rejected, because for most kids that are in that type of a vein, the feeling of rejection is very, very strong.
Oh, it's huge.
And rejection is not something you want, because it's already been proven that all cancer begins with rejection.
Okay.
That's a sad one to say, but in all my research, I've discovered it to be really true. And when we look at the fact of what rejection does to you in your life, it's not a good energy to have around you. So best thing to do is to figure out what you have to do to accept you and be all that you can be. And as a child, I did that. I finally got to where they allowed me to swim in the summer because it was a community pool. All the lifeguards knew me. I would do ice skating in the winter because you would leave the high school and exactly across the street was a great big park that they would manage to freeze with a log cabin where you could always get warm. So I would go over and skate till my father got out of work. And you know, there were the two things that I got to: swim in the summer, skate in the winter. But as far as walking home from there, not going to happen.
So with the skating and the swimming, how was your lungs able to handle that?
Because I could go all the way across the swimming pool to the other side, but then I had to wait.
Okay.
I had to be able to breathe before I could come back.
So you had to catch your breath,
Same thing
right?
with the ice skating. I might get around the ice once, sometimes twice, but then I got to go in and warm back up because I'm not going exactly.
So the start is easier, right? Than once you get going.
Yeah.
So you figured out pretty quickly how to adapt.
Yes.
How to fit in,
right?
Where's your angle, right? So you said class president and some other things.
I did the things that I could do.
Yeah, you figured it out.
It finally got to where I was going away to college, and it was wonderful because I already had a brother at Bob Jones University in Greenville, South Carolina. But the thing was, they knew I was coming ahead of time. They had all my medical records. I got into the dorm that was behind the hospital, and of course, when anything happened, guess where Gary went? You bet it, I did.
Right.
So graduated from college. I went to another school after that in Boston, and I love it because I graduated from college on Friday, had met a wonderful girl named Anne. She became Saint Anne because I married her 24 hours after graduation.
Wow.
One of the ways of keeping myself protected in life, when I laugh at it now and look back, even though it wasn't the momentum in my life to say that I married her so that I maintained protection in my life, but I definitely had. We went off the air.
No, we're on.
Good. I just want to make sure you're on, guys.
Yeah. No, we're on. We're live.
Listening.
See where it says live right up there? We're good.
We choose to love you to life, so do stay with us. So again, that took place. We started a family of two fine boys really quickly, and then all of a sudden on Valentine's Day, between the age of 21, 22, because boy, I did it young. I ended up falling out of the floor, right out of bed. I ended up realizing that in some way I didn't really know where upright was. The balance mechanism on the left side of my head was affected to the degree that if I used my hands to try to help me find upright, and one hand didn't seem to work right, one arm didn't seem to work right, but if I found upright and then picked my hands up at all, I just went right back over onto the floor. Long story short, after 30 days in the hospital and 2 definitive spinal taps, they diagnosed me with multiple sclerosis.
Oh, and how old were you?
In the range of 22 at the time.
Oh, wow, you were young.
Oh, yeah, I was young. I was definitely young. But again, it's a disease of overcommitment. You know, so many people do so much for other people. Their body warns them. It says, if you don't slow up, I'll slow you up. It's like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. There are so many diseases where the body says from in advance, you need to change. You need to take better care of you, and we just don't do it. After all the warning signs, I definitely got hit. Progressively over the next 14 years, I had an industrial accident happen to where my lungs went down to 1/3 capacity.
Well, let's
Plus,
back up a
sure.
second, because there's some really golden nuggets in
Oh,
here
yeah.
that I want to be able to share. I want you to be able to share. So let's back up a little bit. You had mentioned that your wife was your security.
Oh, absolutely.
Why is that? Give us a little insight on that mindset.
Well, realize how protected I grew up.
Okay.
So to have someone around who is going to replace the parental
Okay.
control,
Okay.
the brother that had to take care of me all my life, the teachers, the other people that always knew, even at college, you know, the hospital staff that knew when I walked through the door and they could hear me breathing, Gary was in trouble.
But your wife gave you that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We've been married 50 years as of last Friday. So
Okay. And how long were you with her before you got married?
about a year and a half.
Okay, so you
So,
knew
close
she
to
just
2
brought
years.
that to the table.
Yes.
That
oh, yeah.
security, that go-to,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's really, really interesting. Now,
I do think it was there, although in the back of my mind, it wasn't something that I was thinking of as being what I'm doing and what
conscious.
I'm doing. Oh,
You
no.
weren't conscious
No,
of it.
no,
but-
but yet I'd lived a life where protection and the security of having somebody that was taking care of me
Right.
was a mainstay.
Right, and I have it up on my phone so you guys know what I'm doing, just so we can read any questions or comments that come in. A little easier than on that screen, so I don't want you to think I'm just scrolling through my phone. So now, take us into that mindset of the first time you heard multiple sclerosis tied to you.
Oh, no way, no way, no way.
So it was
this is-
denial.
Complete denial.
Okay.
Absolutely complete denial.
Okay.
And what they basically said is you're going to have to accept the fact that it is what it is, but what we'll do is we'll wait definitively in our own way. We're going to wait until you've had a second major attack, because when you have the second one, at that point we obviously know and can give you a prognosis that looks at the future. Right now, the left side of your body is pretty much numb.
Is that what they call an attack
Oh, yeah.
for multiple sclerosis?
Because when it's progressive, it'll hit and you'll seem to have a little bit of remission, a little bit of letback,
Okay.
and then all of a sudden it hits again. And in my case, it hit again. You're going to laugh because it hit again. Valentine's Day, 3 years later, to the date.
Wow.
And of course, the guy in the white coat, I mean, he says he's the who saith of the highest power. He's the man with the authority. He's the one with a certificate that says he's practicing medicine. And when he says to you, trust me, Gary, it looks like you're going to have another major attack about every 3 years on Valentine's Day.
Really?
You can laugh because my wife would catch me 2 weeks ahead of time getting ready, saying, well, you got to remember Valentine's Day's coming, and guess who spent Valentine's Day in the hospital?
For how many years?
Here I am, way too long. At the end of 14 years, it was at a point where we went to church on a Sunday. It was Valentine's Day. I said to my wife, realize nothing's happened. I'm absolutely fine. I'm going to be perfect, and we're just going to go through the day. We'll celebrate tomorrow. And in the middle of the church service, they took me out in an ambulance. You know.
Wow. Wow.
Gosh, what we believe to be true, and how we respond based on
And
our
how that
belief
manifests.
and how it manifests.
Right.
That's why I do what I do today. Absolutely.
So now let's go a little further. Now, how long were you living? What kind of window was it that you were living where you completely bought into?
At that point in time, I was in a wheelchair. So really,
You
the only
were?
thing, oh yeah, the only thing that really moved on my body was my right arm.
Really?
I had a watch on there that my father had gotten because he was stormed the beaches of Normandy.
Yeah.
And my father had now passed away.
Uh-huh.
But I realized with the watch on there and a spoon, because I had to eat with a spoon because I couldn't keep anything on a fork.
Uh-huh.
I realized I really couldn't get it to my mouth. So I had to take the watch off. But it put me to a point where I was realizing potentially I'm going to get fed for the rest of my life on top of everything else.
Wow.
And I didn't want it. I didn't want it. My wife decided we were going to the doctors, and they were going to give us a prescription that would put me on a stronger antidepressant drug. And they did. They gave us a prescription. They gave us the notification that we needed to realize that for the rest of Gary's life, whatever it was the wheelchair.
And how old were you then?
Between 35 and 36.
Okay, 35.
Yeah.
So it was 22 is when you got the news.
So
you
14
lived,
years.
Okay, you lived that, right, that world. Now,
Yeah.
start bringing us back out. You know, we call this the dip,
Yeah.
right? We're down here, and now we're going to come back up because obviously you're not in a wheelchair.
Oh gosh,
You can move your limbs.
I went figure skating back in March in Charlotte, and they watched me on video.
So now, right, you're at that dip. You're
Yeah.
at that low point.
Yeah.
Start giving us some insights and bringing us back up. How did all that happen?
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful because I've had a way for years where I would think a thought. The wonderful thing about the thought is sometimes that thought would continue to process. Now, I realize I'm thinking the thought, but if the statement was like, it's cold outside, the thought kept going, and it's going to warm up. The end is going to warm up. I would realize, even though it sounds like it's in my voice, I'm not really thinking it. It's coming to me. So I used to sit in the wheelchair and say, as I looked up at the air, God, if you love me, you'd heal me. And it was a great statement because I was really mad at God. I didn't think I deserved to be in a wheelchair. I mean, I'm a husband with 2 children. No.
You were a complete victim.
Yeah.
Would that be accurate?
That would be a good description.
Yeah.
I felt victimized.
Okay.
I felt that I was at a point where what was left to atrophy. I mean,
right.
I don't want to tell you what was going on with all the rest of the body, but
sure.
let's face it, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Uncomfortably, it doesn't work. But, you know, I would just scream, God, if you love me, you'd heal me. And the thing that happened was the voice would always seem to answer back. And if you loved yourself, you'd heal. Did you hear what I said? I'd scream, God, if you love me, you'd heal me. And it would continue and say, if you loved yourself, you'd heal. That's what I had to learn. That's what I had to discover. So I determined that rather than just doing where I was at and stay that way, that I would literally heal. So I started searching for what it was out there from an alternative standpoint. Chiropractic, acupuncturist, massage therapist, diet, you name it. Whatever it was available, I started working with it. And I posted pictures on Facebook when I met my chiropractor acupuncturist back in March of this year, because he's just great because he realizes now I'm 71.
Wow.
It's been 36 years. 36 years since all that took place. It's absolutely amazing. But the key is, he began to work with me, and I still remember the point where, in the back of this leg, and I can touch it right now, it's right there. It's still a singing spot in my leg, where for the first time in 14 years, I had feeling.
Wow.
I can still remember saying to him, absolutely, positively, totally, completely, nothing is going to stop me from healing. Still, it was about 16 months before I got to where I would absolutely confirm to the world I had MS. And for me, I was going to a Lutheran church then. To me was the fact that I could use communion in my own preference as a confirmation between God and I, that the Creator had done his job and I had done mine. Because trust me, we have a part in healing. And that's what I had to learn. I had to learn my part in doing what I needed to do to allow the body to regenerate to the way that it did.
And at the flip side, we have a part in the toxic,
absolutely.
in the deterioration.
That's why I've created some of the most advanced therapeutic work in healing memory structure today that's out there. There is nothing to compare.
So now you're on that upswing.
Yeah.
Now you're fully committed, right? And what are the changes now in your body that you're seeing?
Oh my gosh! Well, again, you got to realize when your legs haven't been working.
Yeah. There's no muscle.
No, there's no muscle in my arms. There still isn't today because I've never lifted any weights. I've never done anything to put strength into my arms, simply because I had all the shots. I had them for 36 years. I never did anything there, but I realized if in fact I'm going to stay up and on my feet, I've got to strengthen my legs. I've got to do something that's going to get me more body strength. However, you must remember, I only have 1/3 lung capacity at the time.
Right.
So I go 6 months later and miraculously, and I do mean miraculously receive full lung capacity in 15 minutes.
Wow.
Rib cage lifted up because I was a skinny, runty kid. New lung capacity, it literally just dropped right down into me in the course of 15 minutes. It was like butterflies at first, and then all of a sudden I was getting more oxygen into my brain than I'd almost ever had before.
So where did that come from?
Where did the miracle come from?
Yeah.
Again, there's so much involved in the story, and it's on my website, which is myname.com.
And we'll give them all that information.
Sure.
Yeah.
The thing is, where did it come from? It came from a belief that if I could overcome MS, why in the world couldn't my lungs heal completely?
Okay.
Literally, I had searched. I'd searched everything. I went to the church. I met with the senior elders, and they wanted me to realize that I was born that way. Mm-hmm. And I told them, I said, "Your God's too small. My God's much bigger than that, for heaven's sakes. I used to be in a wheelchair." And I told them, I said, "My lungs are going to heal. And when they do, you're going to know it." Well, they were all present the day that I received communion, because I told my wife at 5 p.m. on a Friday night that when I took communion that Sunday, my lungs would be healed. The senior pastor of the church got up to serve communion around that day, and he said an interesting thing happened at 9 p.m. on Friday night. I got a message from God that when people take communion, their lungs will heal. So I looked at my wife and said, "See, here we go."
Okay.
So I did. I took communion, and 15 minutes later, brand new full lungs. The shock was the poor doctor, because the doctor that I saw the following Tuesday did his norm, stethoscope and all. he comes in, he's listening to me, and all of a sudden he backs up with these great big eyes. He says, "Okay, Sinclair, out with it. What happened?"
So now, how did you know that your lungs were full capacity?
Oh my goodness. Do you know what it's like to have 1/3? 1/3 is like,
Okay.
no, full is full.
Okay.
You absolutely do. And again, it just, the tickling started, my rib cage lifted up. It just kept going down, 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 down. And the weirdest feeling, I mean, lightheaded, dizzy. I was lightheaded for at least 2 weeks or more before I even had, because I had not had that much oxygen going into my body.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I did.
And did it affect other things like your motor skills, your driving, things like that?
At the time, I can't tell you, I really can't put that into a perspective at the moment, simply because I was pretty excited to be able to breathe.
Right.
But what I realized was, I'm not in a wheelchair.
Right.
I'm not, I can breathe. I can begin to do the things that I needed to do. In the meanwhile, I got a line of people that want to know what I did, because if you can tell me what you did, obviously you healed, so can I. And that was the turning point.
And how old were you then?
36.
Oh, you was 36?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
As I say, I'm 71 today. I've been pretty much healthy ever since, except for one incident.
So now, where did the gold medal in the Olympics for? Let's get into that.
That's where the legs had to work, and I mean the legs had to work. So I started working with a figure skater instructor in Charlotte, North Carolina. I worked with several. As a matter of fact, I met my last one, Tappy Clark, while I was there in March of this year. We went skating together, which was absolutely fun. They worked with me just because I knew that I had to get the leg strength back up and balance, because the balance mechanism on the left side of my head in the beginning was 80% gone. My vision was double vision, so whatever I looked at jumped up and down with each heartbeat. Wow. I mean, yeah, just a real mess from the beginning. But now that that's in the process of healing, the only thing that did not come all the way back originally in that time period was the balance mechanism. And of course, when I saw the doctor, he said, you have to realize, of course, that will never come back. Well, I can stand, put my feet together, do anything you want me to do, because obviously at this point in time, still doing what I've learned about how to live your life as the energy of life, it's now fully back. So it took 5 years later, at age 42, I was at a point where I had started competing, and I ended up becoming the national senior Olympic freestyle gold medal figure skating champion for the USA.
Wow.
Because I got to tell you, if there's one thing I've learned, you either live your life as a warning or you live it as an example.
Yeah.
From the moment I healed, I knew that I had to become the example of as much potentiality as possible to everybody who's out there, and that's why we're talking now.
And how old were you when you won the gold medal?
42.
42 years
Yeah,
old.
yeah. You'll love this one. I was thinking about these being back here. Let's see. I'm up on the top. Here I am on the top of a 60-foot pole. Wow. That I've climbed up. That's one of the Robbins deals, mastery.
Oh,
because how do you get to the top of a 60-foot pole? You climb.
Right? There's no other way.
Yeah, I couldn't possibly throw the pictures away.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
gold medal
Yeah.
in the Olympics, figure skating. So now let's keep moving. Let's.
Well, the thing is, you're at a point where you realize you're doing what you need to do for you, but you got a line of people wanting to know what can you do for them, because somehow you did something that's not explainable. I mean, you're sitting in my office, the wall is covered with certificates. I've got more that aren't even up on the wall, but they relate to everything that's energetic in therapy, simply because if there was something out there that somebody did and they could provably show me that somebody healed in the process for any reason, I wanted to know, what was the magic moment? Why did it work? When did it work? How did it work? Because if it were possible, I wanted to capture those magic moments and create a course that, rather than somebody going to 20, 30, 40 therapies, they literally could sit with me at the time in the course of 3 days and go through a program that was originally called Life Cleanout, and realize at the end of that time we really had worked the memory structure so that the dis-ease in the memory structure would now be neutral, to the point where they would realize there was nothing they could think of that would still bother them. It was a major accomplishment.
So it just erased it.
Oh, yeah.
It just erased
it. It doesn't take away the memory. It takes away the negative emotions and feelings.
Oh, the connection.
Yeah, the plaque right over there on the wall, that's a double plaque for Lifetime Achievement Award for bridging mind, body, spirit work in the field of energetics. I mean, I literally switched. You know, I understood when I had MS, the energy of life was living me. When I made the decision to switch, I became the energy of life, and I became, as me, in charge of that energy. I say my body. I said my body. Well, who's my and I on the inside that represents this body as being separate identity from who I am? Because the my and I is the energy of life that is the heartbeat that changes every time it beats. It completely changes. So I recognized that I became what was the energy of me, and because of that, I could grasp what was possible to teach other people about who they were, why they were at, where they were at in life, and why they were there. How to look at what did you come here to learn? What is life all about? How do you actively participate in the manifesting process? What's your part in the healing? What is it that you need to know that's going to allow you to become the person you always desired to be, rather than having what you desired to be always be some foo-foo dream that's just out there somewhere that will never happen? So within a short period of time, that was the course I was teaching, and I taught it one-on-one for 34 years. Then I started teaching groups because I felt I needed to teach groups, and then all of a sudden, Creator changed it all because he made it improve rapidly, literally overnight, with the work that I'm doing.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's get into that. What are you actually doing now? What share this with everyone so they know.
Yeah, well, consider the 3-day course as having been life clean out and what it was capable of doing, because I had processes in there that literally would allow you to feel your own energy, literally to neutralize a minor memory, even neutralize a memory. Well, let's put it this way. If we scale memories on a 1 to 10, the 10 memories are what we call worst memories ever. They're at a PTSD level. Memories in the 9 and 10 range, they cause you to change your life. Memories up to 8, now you tend to live with them. They make you change. There are things that you do or you don't do because of them, but they're not the worst thing that happened to you. You're going to get above that to be there. Well, I had processes and structures that I could teach anybody easily just to be able to do that part of that. If we've got timing, I can quickly teach them how to feel their own energy and neutralize the memory. That's an easy one to do.
Okay. So it's really about the conditioning.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? It's about the conditioning,
yeah.
Which, as you know, right, the subconscious will accept anything, right? As long as our conscious accepts it. That's why it's so vitally important when you have little kids that their subconscious mind is
absolutely
like a sponge, right?
Up to the age of 7, it's the years of identity. You're telling them who they are, who they're going to be, all of that. So they accept it without even questioning.
Right.
You literally
good or bad.
Absolutely.
And then they carry that anchor.
Right.
If it's bad,
Yep.
they carry that anchor, and then either they're going to figure it out, go get help, right?
Yep.
Work on themselves.
Well, they watch their role models from 7 to 12, then they practice doing role models from then until they get out of the house, and then they either take off and go in any direction they want, or they become a lot like their role models.
It's their journey.
Yeah, it's their journey. Absolutely.
It's their journey. So that's really interesting. So the courses that you offer now, get a little deeper into them and kind of explanation on what people get from you.
Okay. Well, one of the things that happened was God woke me up on May 27th of 2014, said, get up or you're going to write another book. Well, I've already written other books that are available. And I got up because it was obedience. I went down the hallway to go to my computer, and I said, what's the title? And the voice said, Healing Memories in Seconds. And I said, what do you want me to put in it? And he said, well, when you consider all the processes that you teach out of 3 days, what are the best of those processes that when somebody goes home, they continue to use those processes for themselves? And I thought, boy, that's simple. So within a few days, basically, that book's written, because it's not a great amount of pages. Yeah. It's only like 70 pages. It's written, it goes to an editor. I get on an airplane to go to New Orleans to teach, and I said, you got to realize that book's now at editing. You know, if you want something else in it, you'll have to give it to me. And I closed my eyes. When I opened my eyes, wow, 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 wow. If there was ever a piece that was missing in what I was doing before that would allow it to be a much better course, I now had that piece. And that piece ultimately became Soul Link. When I came home, it absolutely went in the book, Healing Memories in Seconds. And today it is by far the leading edge of therapeutic memory healing that's out there, to such a degree that right now I am waiting for a new website to go up even this week that will be Memory Energy Therapy Association, because I'm now certifying and training people to do that work. Soul Link as a process literally neutralizes the negative energy, neutralizes the emotions and feelings of a negative charge out of any memory all the way to and including the 10 in approximately 20 seconds with 100% success.
Wow.
Literally, I ended up starting to work with people. Today, I'm at a point where I'm close to 5,000 people that I've personally worked with. I ended up putting out a medical peer review. I wrote into the International Journal of Complementary and Alternative Medicine, and it was wonderful because I thought there's just no way they're going to print out a research piece on a process as simple as what this was, I figured what they'd do is they'd hold on to it for a while, but at the end of the time period, they'd come back and say, well, we couldn't make it fail, but guess what? We're not going to print on it. Even if I brought this up close, realize it's a graph. It's available on the website to see. It's 2,200 people at PTSD levels of memory with 100% success. And
in 20 seconds.
And it took, 20 seconds. And again, at some point with some people, like 5 out of 100 need to run the process a second time because there will still be emotions and feelings that bother them from that process. But what they did is it took them 5 months to do it, to teach that. Now, because of that, now there's a full new Soul Link certification training program. It's been taught once so far to 15 people. I know for a fact it's already being used in a hospital because of all the other things that the process does.
So the Soul Link is your certification.
No, that's one.
Okay. Okay.
Now, because Soul Link came about, it made such an effective difference in what was now possible in the 3-day program that when I was teaching the last class of the 3-day program in Melbourne, Australia, back in 2014, I ended up getting this absolute knowing that I know in a wonderful way that I had to turn around and write a full grade big certification for that program to go from being a 3-day program now down to being a 2-day program called Restoration. So now I'm at the point where people can take that 2-day program called Restoration. They realize at the end they know who they are. They can look themselves in the eye in any mirror, say I love you, and realize they mean it. They know their core reason for living. They know why they're here. They know what life is all about. They know how to make the programs inside their body run effectively for healing. They know all the energetic changes and shifts that they can make in themselves and do them easily because of the way I look at life and have taught them now to look at who they are for where they are at in life. And because of that, I now have a 3-day training that after the fact teaches them how to certify other people in that course. And again, that course has only been offered for a little over a year. It's just now at a point where there are people who are now fully certified and doing that training. In fact, people that have taken that course through other people are now coming to be certified at the end of August here. And I love it, I love it, I love it. Nothing's better than being duplicated. Nothing's better than realizing your life is now affecting thousands of lives simply because you still live and breathe and have your being. I'd go through everything I ever went through before just to be able to do what I do today. Seriously.
Okay.
You bet.
Okay. Now let's talk about. I know before we went on air, you were telling me about the issue you had. So
Well,
what happened?
Again, I stayed healthy for 35 years. Realize that. July of last year, the right side of my face began to go numb. I know what paralysis feels like. It began to hit, and all of a sudden I realized my left arm wants to drag. I can feel it, the feeling of the sensations all moving and losing them in the left side of my body. So I believed that I would just do what I know how to do, that I teach anybody to do, and I began to do that. But then I began to feel a little uncomfortable 20 minutes later that maybe I should at least call my son and have him take me to the hospital. So I got him, he came, he took me to the hospital, and I was doing really, really well. I walked into the hospital on my own recognizance, even though they wanted to hold my arm and so forth, but I really was doing good. But, however, by the time I got in there and they got me in the emergency room and they got me into a bed, I had another stroke.
Okay.
Over the course of the next 3 days, much to the surprise of UCSD's medical staff, because they actually watched on camera as what was going on. The lead neurologist for Temecula Valley Hospital was right there beside my bed so often, but I had 14 strokes in the course of 3 days, and you heard me say it right, 14. In every case, either the left or the right side of my body would go numb. My ability to speak, they'd quickly hold a card up because they would see it happening, and I'd have to do ba ba ka ka da da all the way down to the bottom. They always had the word baseball player. Say baseball player and see how much movement you make in your mouth. It would be because nothing moves. Your tongue feels like it's this big and nothing moves. So over the course of that time, I had 14. But now here's the key. I live life as energy. I'm in love with me. I told you, I'm love living. I have no problem telling you that. I'd love to teach you how to be the same. Because over the course of 3 days, I overcame every single stroke within 30 minutes. And it's all documented.
Wow.
They told me I could go home when I'd gone 24 hours without a stroke. In essence, they wouldn't do it when it came time because I'd had 14. They were still trying to figure out everything else that they could figure out. They finally made a cardiologist come in and run a full battery of tests for another 12 hours, and then they told me I could go home. But the wonderful thing about it is when I tell you what I was actually doing, when I teach you how to do what's called running programs, part of the way I was running the energy and thought inside of me was the fact that I was not leaving that hospital in a wheelchair, because you know you do. Ha ha ha. I was going to walk out of the hospital on my own recognizance. And when the checkout nurse came to my room on the 3rd floor and filled out all the paperwork, she says, I got to tell you, if you don't want to go down in a wheelchair, don't worry about it. You just get up and go. I did. Again, another confirmation that what I'm teaching and how it works and what it does was that tremendous. The lead neurologist for the hospital was standing holding my right arm when I had the 7th stroke the 2nd night. She looked at me afterwards and said, Gary, we've proved beyond a shadow of a doubt every stroke is absolutely that real. You passed every test for having a major stroke. And I have to tell you, when I watch one patient have 3 strokes like you just had, I know they're going to be in that bed for a long, long time. We don't know what to think. We don't know what's going on.
Wow.
That's what miracles are all about. You know, God doesn't do the supernatural. God does the natural in a super way. Our job is to learn our part in participating with what's going on.
So now you haven't had any strokes since?
Oh, no,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
I have clean bill of health. When I saw the neurologist, because again, the year checkup is coming up, but when I saw her for the 6th month, she says, I just don't have a reason for you coming back. He said, I don't want to lose you as a patient. And of course, I also taught her the process of neutralizing memories. And the joke was, she said, my daughter came home from school and she was really distraught about something that happened in school. She said, so I did the process to her that you taught me when you came in after the hospital. She says, and she looked at me and said, Mama, you know how to do this and you never taught me? What's wrong with you? Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow, it's been a journey.
Yeah.
It's been a journey. So now you're traveling all over.
Yeah.
You're sharing this. You're certifying people.
Yep.
And then now, do you have people actually teaching this?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
At this point in time, I have people who are actually teaching it. I don't have anyone yet who's at a level of certifying others.
Oh.
They're doing the 2-day program called Restoration. I have 15 that have just finished what's required for them to be able to teach Soul Link to other people. And all of those 15 are people that are involved with energetic therapies already. It's growing. It's going to grow rapidly. As I say, the Memory Energy Therapy Association will become the controlling organization. The provisional patent has been filed on Soul Link. There is so much growth and potential coming with everything that's here. You know, when PBS wants to film with you and you have to tell them no, you know, when you get a note from someone like a Dr. Oz and you have to say no,
Wow.
I can't handle any more people. I've got to have so many people that are ready and set and trained to do the work, and yet it's so simple. How are we on time? Just
got
simple.
Got a few more minutes.
Okay, can I teach them a quick one?
Sure.
Everybody, join me. Go ahead. Do this. Take your thumb and rub it right into your hand. Just rub it right in. Feel the feeling of you rubbing it in.
Right.
And then do it again to the other hand. All you're doing is waking up a vortex of energy that's in your body, because from here to here, there's an energy field that represents everything in your body. If you look at the little finger, there's an energy meridian that runs all the way up to your brain and all the way down to your little toe. The thumb runs all the way down to your big toe, but there are 5 meridians on that side of the body, 5 on that, and then there are transverse meridians that cover everything else in your body that run the other way. So you've got all that energy field that's functioning inside of you. So as you do what you're doing here, you're really waking up a field of energy. Now, if I threw you a child's ball, and hear me, a child's ball, you could form your hands into that ball. So notice, finger space on the top, finger space on the bottom, same distance. I'm not like this. I'm right in, so it's the same distance. And all I want you to do is to look right into the center of that space, and then just slowly move your hands apart and back together. Just slowly move it back together. Feel the feeling that you feel in between that space right now, because you got a feeling that you're feeling right now. That's you. That's what they do when you go to a hospital. They put you on a scan bed. They measure the energy field of you. You're feeling the energy of you right there. Now, do this. We talked about memories on a 1 to 10. Allow yourself right now to come all the way down to where you're thinking about a memory in the 3 to 4 range. 3 to 4. In other words, it's something that happens. Doesn't matter what it is. The key is for you, make sure that the memory that you choose in that 3 to 4 range is a memory that still has negative emotions and feelings to it. Because here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about that memory, make that same ball with your hands again, and once you've got that ball all made, I want you to stare right into the space of the ball, keep thinking about the memory, and just slowly, notice I said slowly, pull your hands apart and back together. Again. And again. Now this time, 4th time, I want you to pull it apart. Keep right on going. Go all the way out. Let it go. Look around where you are in the room. Name some of the things you see in the room. Now, here's the key to my work. Think about the memory now. Go all the way to the emotions and feelings and tell me, what does it feel like to realize it's now neutral? Now, if you're an exception, you may discover that there's another memory that's now coming into what you're thinking about. Or it is possible there could still be a slight amount of emotions and feelings there. However, whatever it is, if there's still something, not the memory's there. If there's still something that's coming, do it all over again as you hold on to those emotions and feelings. That's just the beginning. That's just the beginning of using the energy in you. Everything in life has some form of containment. Every process, every piece of energy, every memory. And what I've learned is how to literally take the worst that's possible for anybody and at this point, neutralize it. I had them stand and talk to me. I dealt with a group just this last weekend in New Orleans. Before that, I was up in Sacramento. Sacramento, I had 48 people with PTSD. Literally, worst memory ever. I mean, they're in tears. They're talking about, I've lived 57 years with this. It happened as a child, and they can't heal it. I've talked to the doctors. Nothing works. And seconds later, they're looking at you with a look of being absolutely stunned. Why? Because every time your heart beats, there's a new energy field of you. You are complete and a whole, and yet the whole of you is replaced every time your heart beats. So as you hold a negative in mind, if there is a way to connect the entirety of your energy field so that the entirety is used all the time that you're thinking about the negative memory, then it's going to pull the negative charge out of the memory.
Wow.
And that's what I've created. I've created a process that allows you to use that ongoing changing energy field of you all at the same time, and that energy field is positive. Your heart energy field is 5,000 times stronger than the negative energy field you have in your brain. If you compared them, it would be like 5,000 to 100. So as you hold anything in mind that's negative, the power of the whole literally pulls the negative charge out of it. And I've been doing it since June 6th of 2014, and there isn't a worst that I can think of that it hasn't worked on, because it's worked on everyone with 100% success.
Wow.
So
wow.
Obviously, I love what I do. I love where I'm at. I can't wait to help. And literally, I call it Soul Link, changing the face of therapy. Because whatever's been out there, if you look at what most people use, I mean, there are therapies that work. I learned to do tapping. For me, it worked sometimes. It didn't work all the time. But I found out that on average, it works about 60% of the time. I learned to do EMDR. That's another one where you're using the fingers and eye movement, looking at its eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. It's literally working to reprocess a memory after you find it and create changes to it. But with those with PTSD and worst memories ever, it runs about 80% successful statistically. And really, it's the one that we've celebrated because it has been the most successful. Even the first client I went to offer that to, because I realized I needed about 3 hours to work with him, I said, oh, by the way, I've got this new thing. If you don't mind, I'm just beginning to do some research, because he was the third person I talked to. If I told you what the memory was that he worked on, you'd throw up. It is so gross what he was dealing with, because it seems to wake him up every night. It's repetitive. It goes on and on and on. 40 seconds later, and in his case it took 40 seconds, 40 seconds later, I love it because he looked at me and said, I tell you about the emotions and feelings, but I can't find the memory.
Wow.
Did you hear what I just said? Literally 20% of the people I work with that have a memory that is detrimental to the ongoing of who they are will discover they can hardly remember the memory, if at all, once they've done the work. So
wow.
How excited can I get?
Listen, you're living your passion, and you've lived it. You know, you came out on the other end of that, and to me that's wisdom, because knowledge you can get out of a book, but this is real life wisdom. Where can they find you, Gary, if they need to reach out?
Website is just my name, Gary Sinclair,
Okay.
GarySinclair.com.
Okay.
That website has only been up for 3 weeks, because trust me, I've had to get as many people to help me as humanly possible while I'm getting all the legals done, all the systems set in place, all the controls set in place, so that it can expand with other people doing what needs to be done to get it to expand, because there's only one of me.
Right. Well, you know what? They know where to find you. If you have any trouble, reach out to me. And guys, some major, great golden nuggets here. We always want to bring as much value as we can and open up your mind and introduce you to new things that are out there. And feel free to jump on his website, ask him any questions. You know, he's always on the go, but he'll figure out a way to answer you. Connect. He's right here in Fallbrook, North County, San Diego. feel free to reach out to him. Amazing, amazing story. I appreciate you taking the time, Gary.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, thanks so much. Keep making it happen, and we will talk to you soon.